Hickman. In fact, the late, great Steve Hislop was one of the first riders to actually get a look at this circuit and have a ride round it. And it's held all sorts of stuff: 24-hour endurance, World Championships, Superbike National Championships, Super Touring cars, our own Eurosport Super Racing weekends visit here. So the motor park Oschersleben, very, very busy all year round, but the biggest crowds, and there's 70,000 of them here again on this beautiful day, 21 degrees. 70,000 crowd here for World Superbikes Round 5, and the mouth-watering prospect of Troy Corser on pole position, and also of Regis Lecconi having a drive-through penalty, which, unlike the old stop-go, the Tenkate Honda boys reckon that it'll only cost him between 10 and 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's a lot fairer.
It won't put him out of the reckoning.
It is a lot fairer, and there is chance if he tries hard, he can get right back in there. It is going to make it very interesting for me. It's not, certainly hasn't spoiled the race, it's going to make it more interesting. You saw them go away from the start, they've got about 200 yards of straight, then they've got a left going into a long 180 right, and this is why it's imperative to get a start, because once if you're down in 10th or 15th going around these first few bends, the leaders can quite easily be 4 or 5 seconds in front by the time they get around the first set of bends, and that you're never going to catch up.
One of the things that's interesting in this race is that the slipper clutch has finally arrived after being tested at Assen the Wednesday after Monza on that Tenkate Honda of Chris Vermeulen's, and he's feeling, as ever, very confident about things. I should think the slipper clutch is a great boost to him round here, although they haven't got it absolutely fully sorted yet. He says that it does mean that the rear end just turns in a bit better, holds on a bit better for him in these turns.
Yeah, it means you can turn into the corner with confidence at the back end. Well, the rear wheel is actually going the same speed as the track underneath it, where if you're banging down the box, you haven't got a slipper clutch, you can quite easily end up backing it into a corner like you always used to see, but you don't anymore. Now everybody runs slipper clutches.
Now, Frankie Killy, what about this man? He's surprisingly not the oldest geezer in the race. This goes to the 41-year-old Michael Schulten, 41-year-old, a figure that will be familiar to our studio guest Jim Moody. Regis Lecconi, number 55, we're on board with. Now, what about Frankie Killy? He's come back, he's retrieved that 998 RS FO2 Ducati from the bin, and he's looking strong again.
Yeah,
and he nearly won here last year.
Yeah, he does actually like it here, but he's been everywhere as Killy's raced GPs, Superbikes. There's no circuit in the world, unless it's brand new, that he hasn't ridden at and he hasn't done well at. And I think everybody, including myself, would love to see him. He was so unlucky at Monza to lose a lead in the championship, and I'd love to see him have a result here. Everybody wants Killy to win now.
The grid lines up then, 25 strong here at Oschersleben. This is round 5 of World Superbikes. 21 degrees, 36 degree track temperature, all to play for. 28 lap race. This is going to be absolutely fascinating.
This is a long race.
This is a long race, a physically demanding race. Who's going to be the strongest, mentally and physically? Watch the lights. And a great start for Troy Corser. He gets air under the front wheel of the Foggy Petronas as he takes off from pole position. Frankie Killy also gets a good drag, so too, and essentially he needs it, does Regis Lecconi, but I think it's Norrie Haga who's come out at the front with the FP1 in third place, dipping underneath Lecconi through the hotel curve, where you can watch it all in comfort from the veranda of the Motor Park Hotel. But Norrie Haga, a real threat all weekend at the front. This is Lecconi sliding through into third place, I think getting underneath the FP1 of Troy Corser into the Hasselreuter. He's gone through, he's into third place, and he doesn't. Going into where he tipped off on Friday, he's still there in third place behind Killy.
Yeah, and this is a problem that Troy's going to have, the fact that it's going to be easy for the guys to get, for everybody else in the race essentially, except for Chris Walker, to get by him coming out of the turns, and he's always going to get pushed back early on. You saw him, he got a flying start, first away from the line and third into the first corner, and that's just lack of grunt.
This is the most crucial part on the track, according to Corser, is getting a smooth run through the Bilstein-Essers onto the back straight, up to 150 miles an hour down the back straight, and then breaking into the Shell-Essers at the end. Chris Vermeulen is there in 5th place, just behind Corser at the moment, and Vermeulen, Toseland in 6th. And already Regis Lecconi, desperate in the knowledge, of course, that he's going to get that ride-through penalty signalled within the first 5 laps, is trying to get past Killy into 2nd place and make the most of his start.
Yeah, Lecconi's plan would obviously be to get away first. The perfect plan for him would have get away first, pull 4, 5, 6 seconds if possible in those first 8 laps. He'll know the score, he'll know when he has to come in. They've got 5 laps that he must be flagged within the first 5 laps, and then after the flag's given, he has 3 laps to come in, so a maximum of 8 laps. And depending when they put the flag out, that is. And if he could have pulled 6, 7, 8 second gap, which he hasn't. We've seen him do it at just about every circuit. A drive-through is not as bad as a stop-go, obviously, because all he's got to do is drive through the pit lane at the correct speed. If it goes above the speed, which I think is 100 kilometres an hour, but whatever the speed, he's got to go down, not exceeding that, and then out the other end without stopping. And that, essentially, if he had a 6-second lead and came in, he probably could come out in the first 4 or 5 and in theory, get back up to a podium or even win.
At the front at the moment, we've got Norrie Haga looking very, very impressive. They had Renegade Team was a big moment for him coming onto the back straight. They're getting the power down almost too early on the 998. But that man at the front, Norrie Haga, his team boss Mark Griffiths said it was really kill or cure after Monza. They had over 2,000 engine parts delivered to their HQ in Cheshire. They've rebuilt. They've got 8 brand new engines. They certainly did it. They had a broken piston and a cracked piston and a broken valve.
Piston
Is what stopped their cylinder. Sorry, a cracked cylinder and a broken valve are the 2 things that stopped Norrie in Monza. He's now got a brand new engine in for this morning. They changed it last night. His #1 engine. And it looks to be running all right at the moment.
Yeah, this circuit won't be as hard as on the engines as Monza. Monza's all flat out. It's all just banging off the rev limit, and that is, if they're going to blow up anywhere, especially valve problems and piston problems, it's going to be Monza. This is Laconi just trying so hard to get under Killy now. He needs to get away. He knows what he's got to do, and this isn't working for him at the minute.
Frankie Killy holding on there in 2nd place. Of course, he's still 3rd in the championship despite his Monza nightmare. He's just 23 points behind Regis Laconi, and Laconi knows, as does everyone else, that he's got to take that visit to the pit lane at some point very soon. But Norrie Haga looking comfortable at the front, beginning to stretch his lead. This is a circuit that he can ride very smoothly, and he is riding very smoothly. He certainly did during his Super Pole lap, and he's just very gradually inching out ahead of Frankie Killy.
Yeah, that makes it look worse. The camera angle always, the lens always makes somebody look a lot further in front than they are, and he actually isn't that far in front.
And you said, James, that the low 129s would probably be the regular race times that these guys would need to achieve to be near the front. 129.1, the fastest lap so far by Haga.
You know, I wonder about Killy. You know, he likes the old bike as opposed to the new bike. I'm wondering whether he's that old now. It's like these old couples who always have an old car, like a real old Austin 1300 or a Maxi. And I think he just doesn't like the look of the new, but he doesn't hold with the new fashion.
Because, interestingly, he had to bring the 999 out for that first race in Monza, and he was going darn well on it before it blew up. Yeah, he had to come out of pit lane on the 999, and he was coming through the field at a stonking speed before it went on.
I think it's nostalgia, and he just doesn't hold with all these newfangled bikes.
Well, he's seen how difficult it is for these lads to sort the thing out, although Tosland is looking impressive in 6th place. He needs to get that sort of result.
Yeah, I mean, Tosland, I think he's well capable of, although we know he doesn't like the bike, we know he's got problems with the handling, he's not confident with it, but we saw at Monza, he didn't qualify good, but he...
Fastest lap, Schulten on the Alpha Technic Honda has gone under 129. Well, the 41-year-old German, they've put an HRC kit on it because they have to run super stock rules in the German Pro Superbike Championship. They've put 16.5-inch rims on for the first time. They always use Pirelli tyres anyway. And they've got an HRC kit, Showa suspension, and he's been wickedly quick all weekend.
Yeah, good, and a man of his age.
Man of his young age, indeed. He's getting away now from Chris Walker, so Stalker getting a little bit marooned and cut off from this leading group.
And I think Tosland just went under Vermeulen going into the big fast chicane at the end of the back straight there.
So the young lads are at it already. The warfare is on. Norrie Haga leads, and the relatively old stager Killy is in there as Tosland nicks 5th place, and Schulten threateningly is another Honda in that top 7.
And I tell you what, if Course and Walker had bikes that were as fast as the guys they're racing with, they would be winning races. There is no question of that.
4 laps out of 28 complete. Haga has a .797 lead over Killy. Laconi still there in 3rd place. 4th Troy Corsa, which will become 3rd place at some point, we imagine, unless Tosland has nicked it from him before then. Vermeulen, Schulten, Walker, Steve Martin, Oldschlager on the 3rd of the Hondas in the top 10, ahead of Haslam, McCoy, Sanchini, Clementi and Pier Giorgio Bontempi. Notice Andy Meklau, a former top 6 finisher in World Superbikes for Ducati back in 1994. He is here on the Motorsport Power team, Austrian team, on a Suzuki.
Former race winner on Ducati, actually.
Former race winner on Ducati.
He's won races, yeah. A-race, I think.
That was at his local A1 ring. He lives alongside it, doesn't he?
And it lashed down.
Oh, did it?
Oh, it did. It nearly washes off the track.
Well, there's no danger of that today. Absolutely fabulous weather here in eastern Germany. And Nori Haga enjoying it and still looking lively at the front.
And you have got to respect Toseland. He doesn't like the bike. He can't change the bike, as opposed to like Killy changed to a bike he loved. And Toseland is digging in, and he has to dig in. And he says himself.
There's the number 55 board coming out. That is going to be held out now.
He's got 3 laps.
For Regis Laconi. He's going to have 3 laps. And on one of those 3 laps, he's got to make the decision to take his ride through penalty. James, if it were you, when would you do it?
I don't think it matters now. He hasn't made the break at the front. Staying out there another couple of laps stuck behind Killy isn't going to make any difference. He can
so you doing it at the end of this lap?
Yeah, he can do it any time, don't matter. It would have only mattered if he'd have been pulling away half a second a lap. He'd have stayed out as long as he could. So when he comes back into the race, he hasn't got as many people to pass who he's quicker than. But he hasn't been quicker than anybody. He hasn't pulled the gap, and it doesn't matter.
So in fact, it's a bit like being stuck in heavy traffic and it's all slowing down on you on a motorway, and you come up to a service station, so you dive in thinking it might have cleared when I get back out.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's a little bit of theory, but as it...
Oh, Stalker! Stalker has pulled into the pits,
obviously
and problems
technical
for Walker.
Yeah, obviously, and he was running well, just off the front of the back of the front bunch.
And that would be a very dismayed Chris Walker, who, remember, was on the podium for HM Plant Ducati here 12 months ago, when something's gone wrong with that front end by the looks of it. So it's down to Troy Corser, number 4, in 4th place, as we watch to see if Regis Laconi is going to pull in, either try well, there's no point in trying a desperate move on Killy now. He might as well just pull in at the end of this lap and get Killy out of his sights and then come charging back into the reckoning. Certainly Nori Haga's on a charge. He is just winding it up at the front and gradually extending his advantage. And here he goes, sensible move, straight in.
But he's got to get the speed down below 100. I think it's 100 k's through the pit lane. Otherwise, he will get another stop and go, another drive-through penalty.
And it's a rather long, sinuous entry. Down
about now. See how that's it. Look, it's actually, was it 80 k's he had there on the board? There's a little sign saying.
I think it's 80 k's, 50 miles per hour.
Yep.
Which must feel like a crawl when you've been out there racing.
It's such a crawl. Even for you, it'd be a crawl, Jack.
Yeah, it's about the speed I max out at when I'm going down the track on a paddock scooter. So here we are now, we're down to 5 battling at the front, and the one who Chris Vermeulen didn't include in there was number 52, James Toseland, who's actually ahead of him and getting away a bit. Vermeulen's been complaining that he's actually got too much torque on that bike. And the thing is, he uses this wonderful Australia expression, wheel standing. It's wheel spinning and wheel standing everywhere on him.
Wheel standing is a wheelie then, is it?
It is, yes. Troy Corser goes right out and then comes back in to kiss the second apex, and that's as Nori Haga sets another fastest lap.
And that is a good handling bike where he can let it run really wide mid-corner, then still cut it back without slowing down so much, and that's good. And see how quick he was onto the straight there.
And see what a gap he pulled on Toseland before he reached the dangerous point. Oh, and one of the Alpha Technic Honda's gone down. Schulten has dropped it. The 41-year-old German, who was going so well and has set an early fastest lap, has gone down and out. So one Alpha Technic Honda bites the dirt.
Got a bit excited. We thought he might be doing that, didn't we?
Yeah, overexcited. But I thought, you know, that age, he might have a bit more sense. But it's his first ever World Superbike race, of course.
Yeah, he had nothing to lose. You know, he had no points to lose in the championship, no position to lose in the championship. Might as well have a go and look impressive, and he did.
One person benefiting, of course, Leon Haslam, well into the top 10 now. Oh, he's retired. Sorry, just as I say that, Haslam retires, and at that very moment, James Toseland does manage to cut it underneath Troy Corser. Yeah, 7 laps out of 28.
Check the mid-corner speed out of Corser. That is so much quicker.
Oh, he was just trying a little bit too hard there to hang on to the Ducati. But Toseland now has decided this is his chance, of course, because Regis Laconi just 3 points ahead of him in the championship. And both he and Killy need the point. Mind you, so too does Nori Haga. Haga still marooned on 69 points in the championship.
And this is Laconi back on track, and it looks like he's behind. He's actually behind Meklau.
Just behind Andy Meklau on that Hoyer team, Motorsport team Suzuki. He's going to get inside him quick enough. He's behind 2 Suzukis. He's got Bontempi just ahead of him.
And Meklau, both on Suzukis. So he's down in... Where is he, Jack?
I'm not sure where the heck he is. We'll count them as they come past on the next lap. There's the leader, Haga. We know where he is. 2nd, Killy. 3rd, Toseland. 4th, Troy Corser. 5th place for Chris Vermeulen. 6th place for Steve Martin. 7th for Oelschlager. 8th for... I thought that was Leon Haslam.
Haslam's still out there.
I thought Leon Haslam was still out there.
He's down in about, I
reckon he's on the edge of the points.
15th. I think he's 15.
So there's no doubt about it. He's going to get some points. But it's a question now of how many. He's got 20 laps to go, so he's got loads of time.
It's a long race, I told you, Jack, because it's a short distance around the track. They have to do a minimum distance for it to count as a World Championship race. So long track like the old Hockenheim, you only did 15 laps. And Monza, like 16, 17 laps. Here, it's 28 laps. That's a long race.
Frankie Killy now coming under some real pressure from this man, Toseland. Both of these guys, of course, did their fastest laps of the weekend in morning warm-up today.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say
13th place.
I thought you were going to say Killy coming under some real pleasure from that tonight, that Jack.
And hopefully not from Toseland. Killy then just hanging on to that second place on the PSG course 998 RS, and that FO4 999 right behind him.
Well, whatever problems Toseland's got, he's obviously still got them, or he still had them during practice for this meeting. He's putting them to one side and he's gritting his teeth and he's doing exactly what he has to do.
But surely that fastest lap this morning of the weekend indicates that he tried some more stuff out this morning. He had nothing to lose.
Yeah, he's been trying to, and he's just slides off the end of the back straight into big fast. This is the fastest chicane in the world. It's like a 4-gear chicane. He's really quick.
And coming out of it, of course, was where he had that Monty collision with Neil Hodgson before beating the Fila Ducati last year, and through into second place. That's good news for Toseland, because he knows that Leccone's going to be making progress through the field, but at least he's got himself a potential 20 points right now.
Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Corsa is sneaking up on both of them. He's making some ground back.
Corsa said he did 2/3 race distance yesterday during free training yesterday afternoon on his selected race tyre. His last lap was as quick as his first lap. This is Toseland nicking second.
I mean, yeah, classic. Nothing, there's no comeback off that. As long as he can hold a line round the right-hander, there's no way Killy's getting back at him. And Corsa, you've got to say, if things aren't going his way, the towel does come in sometimes, but when things are going good and he's got a bike he likes, there's not many people in the world better at riding bikes. It has to be said.
He was absolutely humming with joy when I spoke to him last night. He was really chuffed.
I remember watching him at Valencia on an Aprilia, and Rob Mack said, you've got to miss a bit of a session and come and watch him, and I did, and he's just like watching an artist at work. He is so good when things are going his way.
That day round Valencia, he was finding lines that no one else could touch.
Yeah, but hitting him they were his lines, and he were hitting them you could have put a 10-pence piece on the track and he'd have been on it every single time. And that is, I know how difficult that is to do, and I think you have to have done a little bit of racing just to see how good that is.
So Troy Corser at the moment still a competitive 4th place as we ride with Regis Leccone, who has now caught up with Lucio Pedicini. Leccone in 14th place. Pedicini on the Pedicini Ducati is about to get whapped, I think, and loses 13th place. And he's got under Nanelli as well. He had both the Pedicini Ducatis ahead of him. They're now both behind him. So I think 12th place for Regis Leccone, with still a lot of time ahead of him to make good his progress.
Depends how big the gaps are now. It gets harder and harder the nearer the front you get. Easy to pass blokes who are going 2 seconds a lap slower, but then it gets while the people you're trying to catch are only just going quicker.
Sanchini 15 seconds off the pace, McCoy 15.7 and 21 seconds behind for Regis Leccone. Gary McCoy has been struggling a bit round here. He said it was as much a mental thing as anything on Friday. He'd never been to the track before. He couldn't get the bike to turn quite how he wanted it to, but he got a little more confident yesterday and was feeling a bit better about the race, but he's still a bit submerged downfield.
Yeah, it's a track, I went there the first time on Belgada Yam, and it is a fact that it's a track that you've got to set your bike up for. You run out of time a little bit in qualifying to set your bike up and just do one of them. Right, well, I'll just try harder then. And all that happens is you get into luck, and that is, who's that out? Is that Martin?
No, it's Bocciani.
Bocciani.
And Bocciani's been having a nightmare of a terrible weekend. It's straight, that lad, he's sometimes so quick, another weekend so amazingly not so. He was never near a chance of getting into Super Pole. And for a guy who's lying as well up the championship as him, that's a bit of a surprise, isn't it? He's in 8th place in that championship, just a point behind Walker.
Well, there's one thing. The guy who's running the racing spares department back at Ducati's had a busy week, and it looks like he's not going to get any better this week. He's going to be working overtime, sending valves out, pistons.
This is one guy that certainly gave him a lot of work to do after Monza, although Killy admitted that it was his own fault that second race at Monza. He was just a bit over-eager when Toseland, who he's chasing right now, had just been holding him up that bit. He finally got in front of him, and he was so desperate to catch the 2 men in front that he overcooked it at Parabolica, which is not the first time. Frankie's survived some pretty big high sides at the Parabolica in his time. He still bounces amazingly well.
He does, yeah.
Laconia, of course, just 3 points ahead of James Toseland in the championship right now. Killy is on 97 points. He's 23 points behind Regis. And the next man up, Gary McCoy, 10 points further back on 87. And then cruelly down on 83 points, Chris Vermeulen, who should have been on 103 if they hadn't had that problem with the ignition cut out at post-race scrutineering at Monza. And Vermeulen has slipped back. I think Vermeulen's got a problem. He's slipped back behind Steve Martin on the DF Extreme Sterile Garda Ducati. He just may have a problem there on that CBR 1000. Toseland keeps just beginning to eke out a bit of extra time. There is Martin coming into view onto the stadium straight there at the back of the circuit. So he's the man who's moved through into 5th place. Troy Corser, he said that, as I mentioned earlier, 2/3 of race distance on his race tyre, and he was just as quick on the last lap as the first. So he's confident that he's got the speed right the way through the race.
Yeah, I mean, after the pole, Carl will be so sorry he's missing this meeting. He's sat at home in Blackburn with his feet up. He's had a keyhole surgery job done on some knee cartilage, and he's not feeling. Well, I don't know if he's feeling so good or not, but he's certainly not able to walk around along.
Here comes Martin, followed by Chris Vermeulen.
Yeah, he must have problems. He was right up there at the beginning.
Vermeulen said his mechanics are calling him a sissy because he said, look, I've got too much torque, I can't keep the front wheel on the deck. He says, I always love to have more and more top end, but at the moment the motor is almost too torquey for this actual circuit.
Yeah, sissy,
and
right.
A handful.
Yeah, yeah, 185, 190 horsepower bike at Sissy. Let me think.
200 miles an hour.
Yeah,
and look, Oschersleben is coming up behind him on that Alpha Technic Honda. I tell you what, that Alpha Technic Honda has probably that little less power they've got on that bike is helping them round here.
I reckon something's gone wrong with the tyres on Vermeulen's bike. The back of the bike's shaking quite violently, I think, whether it's thrown a piece of tyre or the tyre slipped on the rim and causing an out of balance sort of vibration. The back end of the bike, you see the seat in some of the close-up shots, he's all over and he's missing the apex and he's dropping back into the sort of grips of people who really shouldn't be anywhere near him, to be honest.
Well, he did lose a chunk out of the middle of a tyre on Friday at Monza during qualifying, and wasn't allowed to use that tyre anymore for the weekend.
Yeah, I think.
And he says he's still having to manage with the tyres that have been developed for the Ducatis.
Yeah, I think not only has the bike got too much torque for him, it's probably got too much torque for some of the tyres as well.
Nori Haga comfortably in the lead now with 15 laps out of 28 to go. But behind him, that battle for second, third places is still very much on. Troy Corser in contact with James Toseland and Frankie Killy. But this guy has very coolly pulled out a 5.2 second lead. And, well, as we were saying, he can ride extremely coolly and smoothly when he needs to. And this is one of those days at the moment. Yeah,
the Ducatis really favour a rider who is fast corner speed and uses a torque, uses high gears, and is not too sort of aggressive with the bike, like Foggy did when he was at his best, and like everybody else has been when they've done well on Ducatis. Now, Aga's a man who can ride really, really smooth, and he can also be. I mean, we saw him super aggressive when he used to ride the Yamaha, and it was obviously aggressive. It's better to watch, but sometimes it's not as quick. And he's smooth today, and it's showing.
We just glimpsed Regis Laconia there moving through into 11th place. That wasn't Clementi he'd got past. I'm pretty certain that was Mauro Sanchini, and he's already got Gary McCoy on the NCR Nortel Networks Xerox Ducati in his sights. Now Corser in the last couple of laps has just drifted back slightly from Frankie Killy, but Killy is looking very, very set on that second place.
Yeah, one thing that happens as the tyres wear, it's going to be more difficult for Corser because he's relying on keeping that mid-corner speed up and that entry speed and exit speed, because he loses a little bit when he gets on the straight. So the more the tyres wear, the more he is going to suffer.
Corser then in 4th place now, just getting a little bit isolated. The battle between Toseland and Killy. Corser in 4th. 5th place, Steve Martin. 6th place, Chris Vermeulen has been joined now by Jürgen Oschersleben and Leon Haslam. Now the Pocket Rocket, perhaps he's just settled himself down and he's just lapping more steadily. Perhaps that made him realise that, you know, if he just relaxes a little bit round here, he will go quicker.
Well, when it said he's retired, it might mean he's retired from a normal job. I retired when I was about 18.
He's never had a normal job, and neither of you, you lucky man. Well, neither of any of us.
We're
very
work
fortunate.
now. We're just sitting here with you.
Well, this isn't work, man. This is fun. Chris Vermeulen then, under threat from an Alpha Technic Honda. And then further back, here we have, I beg your pardon, of our graphics team. That was Clementi he got the better of. Mauro Sanchini is still there ahead of him, having a great battle with Gary McCoy. So Mauro Sanchini is putting in some great laps again on the ZX10 Kawasaki, while ahead of him the Honda Fireblades have closed right up together, and the 34-year-old Jürgen Oilschlager has really come good here. He's right behind Chris Vermeulen on a track he obviously knows extremely well, and Vermeulen definitely having some sort of problem on that Tenkate Honda.
And Sanchini and McCoy are about to get the business from Laconi, I think, in the next couple of laps.
It's looking that way. Laconi is, well, he is one of those high corner speed, smooth riders that suited Ducati, without a doubt.
Yeah, and you know, sometimes when you feel you've been penalised...
Oh, look at Oilschlager,
yeah,
he just
look,
dips underneath.
Yeah,
whoops, right on the exit.
That was never going to work, would it? Good at wheelies, though. Have you seen that?
But he thought it was going to work.
I don't know whether he did once he got into it. But I'm saying about Laconi, sometimes if you have got... Is that Laconi in the back of him already?
It is.
No, it isn't.
No, there's Laconi. There's
That was
Laconi
McCoy
just
going daft,
behind McCoy and Sanchini. So he's now into 10th place.
But you know, when you think you've been unfairly done to, you know, he's got this drive-through, blah, 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 he knows he's quick, and sometimes it can fire you up so much, instead of thinking, oh, I haven't got a chance, I might as well not try, it's quite the opposite, and you think, right, I'll show him then. And I think he's having one of them days, is Laconi, because he looks like he's flying now and trying really hard.
So Laconi then into 10th place, which will reward him with at least 6 championship points, and I think it's going to get a good deal better. So James Toseland presently on 20 points. If he can hold that second place, that will take him to 237 points in the championship. That would mean that Laconi needs to score, well, actually, even if he scores 3rd place, it won't be good enough. So it looks as if Toseland can take the lead, retake the lead in the championship, but really he needs to stay ahead of Frankie Killy. This is on board with Laconi. He's right behind Gary McCoy. He's right behind McCoy. He's not anymore. He's gone straight underneath him, wasted no time at all. So the 28-year-old Frenchman stuffs the 32-year-old Aussie through the shell S's. He's up to 9th place. He's got Sanchini ahead of him, and he can already glimpse Leon Haslam another 100 metres in front of this bunch.
Yeah, like I said, the near the front... That's both of them out sideways, going in off the end of the back straight there. And he actually went in a little bit hot.
That was nicely choreographed.
He didn't run wide enough that McCoy could get back at him.
And with 12 laps to go, he'll certainly have his eyes set on... Now, when you're in a position like this, is he looking just at Sanchini now? He's not being distracted by these guys further up the track.
Yeah, he'll know they're there, but he'll be wanting to get past Sanchini and get down to some fast laps immediately. The longer he stays behind Sanchini, the less chance he has of getting that...
Oh, and he made Sanchini really sit up.
Yeah,
poor old Mauro.
That will motocross, it'd be a block pass.
That was a block pass. That was a vivid block pass, and the Kawasaki really had no choice. That was going into the Hasserode long left-hander.
Yeah, it was.
And, that's not a regular passing place.
It's fair, Jack. You know, if you feel you're being held up, you can do that. I mean, the guy ain't racing with him in effect, and you're going to see him clear off now. And I don't think anybody will complain about that, really.
Mauro thought he had the racing line. Oops, suddenly it wasn't there. It was filled with Fila Ducati.
Yeah, you can see how much quicker he's going.
And he held that. He still managed to hold a tight line on the apex, on the exit, to get himself back there in front.
You have to get past Sanchini. He'd be getting dazzled by his hideously, grotesquely fluorescent leathers.
Oh, I think they're beautiful, those leathers.
You love everybody, Jack. We know you love everybody.
They're the same colour as Halifax Corporation.
You need to go out and pick a fight with somebody.
No, I don't. I can't
you
fight.
Do?
No.
Doesn't matter if you can't fight. Just get a bit of aggression going, look.
James Toseland, you said that he needed aggression at Monza. He showed it then. Is he showing it enough now?
I think he is. I don't know if it's enough to win the championship, but he's certainly doing what he has to do. You've got to take it out to him. He doesn't like the bike. He's digging in. He's doing what he can do. He can't do the same as Killy and go and get the bike he loves and go, you know, faster than he knows he's doing now. So he's doing everything he can, and that's all he can do.
PSG1 team looking as concerned as ever about what's happening to their man out there. At least the bike hasn't gone pop yet, and Killy is still on board. Now, some guys keep tight to that long right-hander at turn 4.
Yeah.
And other guys go out wide like Killy and Corsa do, and then come back onto the apex.
Yeah, you need a bike that you're confident with the front. If you're going to let it drift wide mid-corner, that is the fastest way, because you can go in quicker. That pushes you wide. But you've got to be confident enough in the front to close the throttle slightly and hook it back to that second apex. And if you can't do that, you've got to stay on the inside. If you can do that, it is the faster line.
We noticed that the gap between Chris Vermeulen and Regis Laconi is down to 1.5 seconds. 1.5 seconds, and that's going to really put the pressure on Chris now. It's down to 7/10 of a second.
Yeah, he's
it's
pulling a
shrinking
second
all the
lap.
time. And one of the back markers there, Carl Berthelsen on the from Norway on the Suzuki GSXR 1000, the Dutch Netherlands Suzuki. Why a Norwegian should be out on a Dutch bike, I've got no idea, but he's just been lapped by race leader Norrie Hager. Hager looking really cool now.
He's looking just as good as I've seen him for a long, long time. We haven't had a good look at him for quite a long time, and when he's up front now, you're getting to see a bit of him, and it does look really smooth. He's using all the track, just using enough of the white line, so you got the impression that he knows exactly. And this is Laconi right on the back of Vermeulen. He's going.
So Vermeulen has lost out to both Haslam and Oschersleben, and he knows that Regis Laconi.
He was trying to do another Sanchini on him there, same corner.
Chris said last night that he was.
I told you, yeah, the back tyre's gone. It wouldn't surprise me if it has actually slipped on the rim and gone really out of balance.
So Chris Vermeulen was saying last night he was relieved to find that
Look at the back of the bike there, Jack. You see the back of the bike, Vermeulen's bike, just jumping up and down, and he doesn't seem to be able to hold the line properly with it.
And look, he's struggling with keeping that front wheel on the deck as well. He says that's just been a problem all weekend, trying to get that front wheel down. He said that it was good to see that the rules were being fairly spread out, and that Laconi, you know, just as he got disqualified from Monza, at least Laconi was getting some jip this weekend. But it hasn't helped him a great deal, unfortunately, in the end, because Laconi's caught him and passed him.
Yeah, he's got problems for sure. Vermeulen has problems, and you could see as he tipped into the corner, the flipping back of the bikes the seats jumping up and down. And I'm sure he's got a big wheel balance or tyre. If his tyre was chunking it, if he had thrown a piece of tread, for sure he would have to come in.
Hager, I think, probably is let that gap close a little because he's just so confident at the front. He's riding absolutely coolly, not too worried perhaps about Toseland and Killy having their own private battle as the
Norwegian wood just getting...
Berthelsen shift himself out of the way. I didn't know you were a Beatles fan.
Oh, yeah, everybody's Beatles fan. It's like everybody's ABBA fans, but they don't admit it.
No, I actually deplore them, and I would always
Rubbish.
admit it. Regis Laconi, right on the back wheel now of the Honda of Oilschlager, and Haslam just in front of him. So he's looking at the moment to pick up 2 places very quickly indeed.
Not Hager just in front, it's Haslam just in front.
Sorry, Haslam. I'm getting me Haslams and Hagers mixed up. It's a Renegade Ducati just in front. It's going to be interesting to see where he chooses to pass this time.
See, he's cutting it back.
Cuts it back.
Just gets it back. That's lovely. That's really nice. Hard to do.
Now he wants to be, he'll be looking to get really good speed through the Bilstein into the right-hander, out onto the stadium straight.
He's passed virtually everybody with the exception of Sanchini. He's passed them off the back of the straight into this next right.
So here he goes.
Yeah, that's a carbon copy of every pass he's ever done except for the block pass on Sanchini.
So he cruises through into the Shell S's, and now Leon Haslam is the next potential victim for the championship leader.
I don't know why they're showing this again. We've seen this about 15 times from Laconi in this race.
It's still good to watch.
Yeah,
he does it so tidily. He doesn't even get close to him.
Yeah, he does.
Norrie at the front, and Toseland now is beginning to wind it up. He's getting quicker, he's beginning to leave Killy, he's actually closing the gap a bit on the race leader. Now Toseland won here last year. Julia's already reminded of us that. He's down to 5.97 seconds. He's still got 8 laps left. It's a long race.
Yeah, I told you it's a long, long race because the average speed is quite low compared to somewhere like Monza. They're not covering as much ground, and they have to do that minimum distance. I think is it 100k distance? It's a minimum distance. And yeah, so it's going to be a long race.
Frankie Killy, the problem for Killy at the moment, or one of the problems I was thinking, is he had a little moment then, is that he's got to curb that over-eagerness, hasn't he? He's not got to just reach out a little bit too far and hard in his attempts to hang on to Toseland and try and get that second place.
Yeah, but that's like saying you've got, he's racing bikes because he is eager and he does want to do it. So it's how much do you can you back it off and still keep your aggression and your sort of will to win? Everybody's got to respect Killy for the fact that he's as old as he is. He's had as many knockbacks. He's had as much bad luck, and he still goes out there and wants to do it. And he said himself, when things are right, he knows where the throttle is, and you just couldn't put it any better than his pigeon English the way he put that. He still does know where the throttle is. He knows which way the levers go.
It's his pigeon English is a good deal more expressive than our English.
Yeah,
sometimes.
than we could ever do it. Yeah,
brilliant. And this is Laconi on Haslam. Laconi is right on Leon Haslam now. So Leon Haslam, I think any minute now might feel the draft of that Fila Ducati as he goes hammering down the start and finish straight.
I'll tell you what, Haslam's bike were quick though, every bit as quick as a factory bike.
It's those expensive rebuilds. They're brand new. They took so long to rebuild the engines, they had to bring the bikes over without the engines and bring the engines over later to get them there in time.
This is where he blocked past Sanchini. He's going
to do it again
now. He's gone in hot though. He's gone in really hot.
Whoa!
Really,
right the way round.
And see the dirt, and that's Haslam got past him. You see, that's the difference. The nearer the front you get, the guys you're passing aren't as easy to pass, and he tried exactly the same, like he did on Sanchini, but to get past Haslam in the same manner, he had to go in a lot too fast, and he couldn't make the corner. And you see the dirt coming. Oh,
he's gone wide. Haslam's gone wide. No, we don't want to see this. We want to see Haslam. Come back.
No, he's going so quick. You can tell here he's just heading for the apex, and he just wasn't going to make any.
And he did get it that time.
He got it that time through Haslam's mistake.
That was an error by Leon Haslam. Just when I thought the pocket rocket, who's an aggressive little guy, might give Laconi a bit of grief,
yeah, but
he's failed.
Haslam saw that Laconi come past and he's right behind him, and it would be desperate to sort of show him and stay with him and keep in front of him, which is what made him push too much into the next corner.
It's grisly the way an Italian director sees fit to show his Italian faces in the pit garage all the time. We can only apologise for that. And this is the mistake that Leon Haslam made, and that was no problem at all. Oh, he tried to come back and cover it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Oh,
yeah, he tried to have a go, didn't he?
Oh, and it wasn't quite enough.
Wasn't happening.
Wow, his right elbow was kissing the rear wheel spindle of the Fila Ducati then coming out of that turn. So he's into 6th place now. Can he get any further? Laconi now 6th. Vermeulen back down to 11th behind Gary McCoy. He's got real problems with that Honda. Andy Mecklau in the points with the Motorsport Hauer team GSX 1000. And so too is Bontempi on the Zongshen, the first of the Zongshen bikes. His teammate Warwick Nolan still rather subdued, still suffering the after effects of that enormous prang he suffered at Monza. Norihaga, he's got no problem at all. He's lap number 50, the bike of Miguel Pryor. Incidentally, Miguel Pryor, the 26-year-old Portuguese rider on the second of the Nortel Network's Xerox Ducatis, he's back on a 998 and feeling much happier. He's failed to win over the 999.
Who cares? Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that there's another rider who couldn't get to grips with the 999.
Only you would know that. There's a man that's been lapped. Let's talk about him.
Right, okay, back to Noriyuki Haga. This guy, he came in to World Superbikes as a substitute for Yamaha in 1997.
Yeah,
he was the reigning All Japan Superbike champion.
Unbelievably quick.
And the placings that he got straight away were quite bizarre.
Yeah, and as he was frightening, fast, aggressive, spectacular. He started winning fans straight away. And in fact, he became from one ride at Donington, got him to be. He was almost the most popular rider that had ever been there. Just everybody loved him.
His double race win at Donington in '98, but he finished 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 5th in his replacement rides in 1997, 13th in the world, and then he was full on in '98.
Yeah, there is no question when things are going his way, he can ride a bike.
And we're on board now with Regis Laconi with them. He's got a 7.38 gap on Steve Martin on the DFX sterile guarded Ducati. Can he cut it back, James, in the time he's got left?
Probably not. He's got just less than 5 laps to do it, and that'd be and he's not pulling it back. So that'd be too much to ask. But it's already been a good run for him. If he could have got out there at the front and pulled 4 or 5 seconds early on before he came in, there was quite possibly a rostrum in it for him.
This man Norihaga presently languishing in joint 6th place in the championship with Chris Walker. The luckless Walker has gone out of this race. 69 points to Haga. He'll go up to 94 and will certainly go past Chris Vermeulen and may even make inroads on Gary McCoy. So it could just be he'll go to 4th or 5th place in the championship. And that's going to be good news for Norrie, because we know he regards himself as a genuine championship challenger. Tosland there in 2nd place, and Frankie Killy has not let him go yet.
No, I think he's nicking a bit of time back on him.
And remember how Killy launched an amazing last lap attack on Neil Hodgson here at Oschersleben last year, and was within a whisker of getting underneath him in the last turn.
Yeah.
Before he had to settle
if it's down to launching ill-advised but heroic last lap manoeuvres, Frankie's your man still. At 50-year-old or whatever he is, he's still your man.
And he is closing the gap. He's coming back on him.
That's why everybody likes him. He's mad as a badger.
Go, Frankie, go.
Yeah, you can't help liking the son.
Frankie Killy, there were those wonderful banners at Monza. They said that he was, in Italian, a branch of Ducati.
Yeah, we thought it was rude, didn't we?
We thought it was rude, but in fact,
It sounded
what it meant
like
was,
a thing that never happens at home much.
and he's just beginning to chip away now at Toseland advantage. So this is going to be fascinating. A fascinating climax in prospect here at Oschersleben. Exclusively live on British Eurosport. Jack Barnacle, James Whittam, and of course in the studio we'll be going back to Julia Bradbury with Jim Moody and Tony Carter. But at the front, he's going back home to nobody except the checkered flag, number 41, Noriyuki Haga. Oh, Killy's
just in the
really
background,
on it.
he's trying so hard.
3 laps to go, dirt tracking out of the last turn. Frankie Killy is really on the boil. He can see the possibility of, that wasn't a little bit of smoke behind him, was it? He can see the possibility of 20 points rather than 16 here. Oh, Frankie Killy on the PSG 1998.
For Killy, it's not even about the points, Jack. It's about the pride, and in each race he doesn't really care. I mean, for the extra 3 or 4 points, whatever it is, you wouldn't bother trying to hurt you.
Oh, and Toseland is struggling.
But for Killy, it is about the pride and it is about the racing, and that's why everybody likes him. He's not bothered. He ain't thinking of points now. He's just thinking of another step higher up the rostrum.
And this, look at Toes.
That's a belter. He never shut off either. Never shut it off.
I know the thing I admire about Toseland, and I know you don't, you wouldn't take any notice of it, is the fact that he was so concerned about Killy after the races at Monza, saying he was sad to see him go out of the races. I'm not too sure he wouldn't prefer Killy to go out of this race right now, because Killy's beginning to turn the heat up on him. But Toseland is responding.
Yeah, Toseland's had the get-go from his crew, and they've told him he's catching. He just slacked off a little bit, thinking it's the end of the race, and I think we'll find he can go just as quick as Killy now.
The caged members of the PSG 1 squad. It's amazing watching this, isn't it, when you've got racing going out on track. Thank you. Back with the racing. Toseland into the final lap. They've got just 2 laps to go. In 2 laps' time, that will be the last turn. They come onto the main straight now. There is Norrie Haga. Has he got this in the bag? It's looking that way, but the PSG 1 crew still want Frankie Goes to Hollywood to get himself up into second place. Frankie Killy then, that far behind James Toseland as they enter the penultimate lap.
He's going to need a good 2 laps, and I think he's going to need Toseland to make a bit of a mistake.
Martin's gone past us already. He's 18.5 seconds behind the leader, and he's comfortably ahead of Regis Laconi. So Laconi will have to settle for that 6th place.
Just too far, I think, Jack. Just too far.
And Toseland will surely be stung into some sort of response, because that's the sort of lad he is. And Killy, you can see that Toseland can just about hold the gap up.
Lets it go wide. Can he get it back? He can. That's a good line through there. That's a lovely, lovely line by Killy there. It's too much.
It's too much time.
But
Please,
what do I know?
can we just plead with the director to stop showing us ugly Italian faces in pit garages? What's all that about? Oh, kicking up the dirt now as he goes onto the back straight. James Toseland getting wide, high, wide and handsome, coming out of turn 6 onto the 150-mile-an-hour stadium straight. Through the 75-mile-an-hour shell S's, 105 on the exit.
High, wide and
and then breaking back down to 80, the second gear right-hander at turn 8, then into the 60-mile-an-hour bottom gear right-hander onto the main straight. This is the start of the last lap. This is Noriyuki Haga, 1997 All Japan Superbike champion, winner of the Suzuka 8-hour endurance race for Yamaha back in '96.
How come they say all? When they say Japanese, they say British champion. They don't say all British champion.
I don't know.
How come they all say
Japanese.
all Japan? Like only half of it. There's another championship with some of them in it. There's sometime Japan champion.
And he's beginning to showboat a bit. He's enjoying this, but these guys haven't got time to showboat. The race is on for second place.
Killy's right on him.
Into Haseroda. Another of those constant radius 60-mile-an-hour lefts.
He'll be into some Haseroda if he can finish second, I'll tell you.
And closing right up on the entrance to the triple left.
Come on, Frankie. How can I say that when a Brit's in front of him?
100 mile an hour, and then breaking down to the 60 mile an hour at turn 4.
Back. He just needs to...
Oh, and this is Norrie Haga at the front. This is Haga going onto the back straight. All he's got to do now is hold it coolly together, and Renegade Ducati will take their 2nd race victory of the season.
And he's pulled out a bit through the chicane onto the back as Toseland. Oh, even Frankie can't pull anything out of the hat here.
I don't think so. I think that gap is just tantalisingly too big, although he closes on into the S's, and of course he will try that last turn if he possibly can.
Yeah. You feel for him, don't you?
It's heart in mouth time. That is the winner. Surely Nori Haga, this is the battle for second place, but even Frankie's surely not close enough to do it as Noriyuki Haga wheelies across the line to take his second race win of the year. James Toseland bravely and brilliantly hangs on to second place ahead of Frankie Killy in third, and that was the gap of 0.2 of a second between Toseland and Killy. Troy Corser, almost unnoticed, probably a bit disappointed, brings the FP1 home in a fine fourth. And then Steve Martin in fifth place, and in sixth place will be Regis Laconi, just holding on, in fact. Steve Martin, Regis Laconi, Leon Haslam, who followed him all the way to the line. Ollschläger gets a brilliant eighth place on the Alpha Technic, and that's Mark Griffiths. And Toshi, the wonderful Toshi Arai, who is the manager of Nori Haga, giving Renegade team owner Mark Griffiths, the normally fairly taciturn Mancunian, a big hug, and that was a big smile on Mark Griffiths' face, as it well should be. Well done, guys. That's Toshi back this year as Nori Haga's manager, and I think that's one of the reasons that Nori's behaving himself a bit better. Nori Haga on bike number 41 takes a superb victory, moves on to 94 points in the championship, and gets himself back into some sort of contention here in Eastern Germany.
And how easy with that?
He took it really coolly from the start and went away.
Never saw him put a wheel out of line.
Which is pretty unusual for a guy who, of course, now that he's just turned 29 years old on the 2nd of March, he's growing up, isn't he? And you can see even the English flags applauding him. A very disappointing ride for Chris Vermeulen after all the work they did on that Tenkate Honda at Assen the Wednesday after Monza. It hasn't worked out for him here, but there definitely was a problem with that Honda.
Absolutely.
And he should be back in race 2. The English flags are out here.
That's the German flag-waving display team there.
And there is Toseland back in the lead in the championship. 137 points to Laconi's 130. Killy on 113. Haga goes joint fourth with McCoy on 94. Vermeulen is left back on 84 points. Corser moves 7th on 79. Haslam moves through to 9th place on 73, 4 points ahead of the stricken Chris Walker, who went out of that race. But interestingly, that's a 7-point advantage for James Toseland. That's going to inspire him for race 2.
It is, and we'll see what happens in race 2, because I think Toseland, if Laconi gets away, I do not think Laconi could have gone and won that. I really don't. Be nice to see the lap times, fastest lap time.
Frankie Killy, a very fine third place for the outpaced 998, but Frankie knows he looks a bit disappointed. Typically, he looks as if he felt he could have done better. James Toseland, he perhaps couldn't have done any better. Nori Haga undoubtedly couldn't have done any better. So Nori Haga takes the second race victory of the season. After Valencia, he wins here at Oschersleben for Renegade Ducati.
So that's race 1 there in Oschersleben. And for those of you who are interested in the tennis, just so you know, it's raining heavily in Paris at the moment. And we can go over now. You can see some live shots. Not looking good, so don't worry, you're not missing anything. Tim Henman is due to go on court. And we will be crossing over live to that action when it happens at the French Open.
Eastern Germany. Pole position is 29th of his career, Troy Corser. Can he make it count on the FP1 Foggy Petronas? A great start though by the man who had a ride-through penalty in race 1, ex-championship leader Regis Laconi on bike number 55. And it may be Laconi who got there first in a Fila Ducati 1-2. James Toseland said bravely at the end of the first race that he would be trying very, very hard, and that he reckoned Laconi would have to work hard to get a race win. But it's Nori Haga who's got there first. Haga off the front row of the grid, ahead of Regis Laconi, with Frankie Killy in third place on the PSG 1998. Fourth place for, I beg your pardon, it's Chris Vermeulen. Fourth place for Frankie Killy. So Chris Vermeulen, who had a torrid time in the closing stages of race 1, in fact had a torrid time from lap 6, because the rear tyre on that Tenkate Honda spun 180 degrees on the rim. He said it was like having a square wheel. He had no idea what was going on. It was just all vibration everywhere.
Yeah, that'll throw the wheel completely out of balance. They're all balanced. When the tyres are put on, they'll balance it with small weights, and once the tyre slipped on the rim, the balance is obviously thrown well out.
And Vermeulen, just to compound his problems in the closing half a dozen laps, the slipper clutch began to slip really badly on the straights. And eventually he only just made it creeping across the finishing line in 15th place for just one pitiful point.
Yeah, that's to say a slipper clutch should only slip one way, Jack. It shouldn't slip the way when the engine's driving. It should only slip when the engine's when the throttle's off and the back wheel's trying to drive the engine. That's when it should slip. But he started slipping the wrong way.
And so they've had to ditch it for the race too. He's back on a standard clutch again on bike number 17 in 3rd place.
Which, if it's going to do anything, it should hamper him going into the corners. Once he's got it in the corner and settled and opens the throttle, it'll work exactly the same as slipper clutch will work exactly the same as a normal two-way clutch. But going into the corners, you might just see it there. Look, that's what it's going to stop. A slipper clutch and stop that back end sliding out going in.
Now, Norihaga has got away cleanly again at the front. The first race winner, the 29-year-old Japanese star, Nori-chan, is in the lead. What do you reckon are the chances in this 28-lap race, 1 lap gone, of Regis Laconi doing the deed on the Fila Ducati?
I'll tell you what, it doesn't look. He looks to be working quite hard to try and even stay with Haga. He's running in he's running hot a couple of times and ran wide mid-corner, and that's just, mind you, it looks to be. Yeah, he's a lot wider there, though.
Onto the back straight, down the stadium straight. Frankie Keeley can already see that they're losing touch slightly as he tries to get on terms there with that brutal CBR 1000 Fireblade of Chris Vermeulen's. Vermeulen, of course, almost an embarrassment of torque around this relatively tight 2.279 mile track. And Troy Corser, off pole position, finds himself in exactly the same position as he did in the first race. Just off the back of the leaders and not quite able to live with them. And already Norihaga, with that brand new engine in his Renegade Ducati, is making terrific strides at the front. So Haga leads, Laconi 2nd, Vermeulen 3rd, Killy 4th, Corser 5th, James Tosland 6th. Chris Walker, who had a tiny electrical fault, a miserable little 2 pence worth piece of wire bust and halted his FP1 in the first race.
How did he put it? $2 apart?
Something like that, yeah. And right back in 13th place, Gary McCoy, who's not enjoying the best of times here, yet is still joint 4th in the championship with first race winner Norihaga on 94. Tosland, of course, has the race lead, has the championship lead on 137. That man, Frankie Keeley, is 3rd on 113. Between them, number 55, Regis Laconi, on 130 points. And already Norihaga is stretching out of the front. He's dipped into the high 128s and is stretching this field and making them all work for their living, James.
He is. Yeah, like I say, Laconi didn't look at ease trying to keep up with him, and we're seeing now Haga just stretching a bit of a lead.
That is Chris Vermeulen as viewed by Frankie Keeley,
who's desperate to get past.
And
yeah, I think he's been a bit frustrated by the speed of the Honda. He can get dead level with him, but he's unable to actually get past the Honda. The speed of it is, I think, even. Yeah, he got to run it in mid-corner. Then he dropped back going in.
That was pretty neat, wasn't it?
It
Just
was
to
actually,
surprise
yeah.
Chris.
In quite a difficult place to do it, actually.
It's not often we see someone manage to pick up a place there in that short burst up to about 100 miles an hour between turns 8 and 9. But he did it. The old boy did it, and he's through into 3rd. Wow, that was a crisp pickup coming out of turn 8.
Yeah, it was. He ran. He let him go a little bit ahead of him going into the corner, then got a good run at him through the corner. And you can see Vermeulen, he's struggling going into the bends. The thing's locking up and backing in. That's not going to be helping him.
Leon Haslam there is now joint 7th in the championship on 73 points with Steve Martin. So Leon Haslam picking up places in the championship. He passed Chris Walker, who went out with that electrical fault, and Marco Borciani after his first race result. So Haslam proving that sheer persistence, really, after having not had a great qualifying time at all, he's ridden hard and he's riding hard out there again. So too is this man, Regis Laconi, and as David Tardozzi and his crew watch, he looks as if he's picking up a little bit again, but it's Haga who again drops the time, 128.7 in response. It was interesting hearing Norrie after the first race, James, talking about how he'd been pretty gentle on the throttle and ridden what he described as a quiet race to get the best out of the bike round here.
Yeah, I think what he meant, I think everybody were having tyre problems from perhaps 8th or 10th lap.
Oh, and Toseland already in the final turn. He's made a move on Troy Corser. He's picking up places, but as happened to him in the first race when he said afterwards, I just hadn't made a move soon enough to hang on or get near the lead men.
Yeah, and he hasn't here. I mean, he really needs to get away with him. The problem in this instance was his start. He really needed a better start to get away with certainly Aga and Lacone. Doesn't matter what he does now, I don't think he's catching him, to be fair.
Mauro Sanchini has got past Mauro Sanchini, and Oilschlager have got past Chris Walker, and there's sideways Gaza McCoy. Very instantly recognisable style on the NCR Nortel Networks Xerox Ducati. We're on board with Sanchini, who's ahead now of Chris Walker.
That's a really fast section he's there, down to that fairly slow right, going back towards the chicane onto the back straight, and that is a proper fast section, real scary. Always when you go around and think, oh, if I'm going to crash, I don't want to do it here.
And that's exactly what Lacone did on Friday.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
He said he did say that he abandoned it blooming quick when he felt the back end go.
Yeah, you really don't want to be hanging onto your bike there and trying to save it from damage. Just let it go. You don't want it coming back and hitting you.
Here comes James Toseland. He fights his way past that handful, which is the Tenkate Honda minus slipper clutch and slipping clutch. And he's now through into 4th place with a bit of clear track ahead of him as Troy Corser hangs on behind Vermeulen there, and to see if he could. Oh, and as you say, Vermeulen's just not able to get into the turns as comfortably as he was with the slipper clutch.
That's why people have slipper clutches, just for that reason. And it's not bad when everybody else is doing it, it just looks spectacular. But when people have got slipper clutches, one-way slipper clutches that allow the bike to run in perfectly in line, well then you know you're not going to go as quick.
Both of the Alpha Technic Hondas are involved in this 4-man scrap there with Leon Haslam, Steve Martin. Impressive stuff then from the guys who run the super stock rules in the German Pro Superbike Championship. On board with Frankie Killy, 5 laps out of 28 complete. Fastest lap again, Norrie Haga keeps just slicing tenths of a second off his best, 1:28.629.
And I'm sure that Lacone would have thought he'd be able to stay with Aga if he got away with him, and that's exactly what he did, and he's not able to stop with him.
Troy Corser's able to stop with Chris Vermeulen. What a fascinating contrast here, a superabundance of power combined with a lack of power, both producing identical lap times, James.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, to be honest, I think through the bends, I think Corser will be being frustrated a little bit by Vermeulen, but the obvious speed of the Honda over the FP bike has meant he's unable to get past him. I think if he was able to get a clear bit of track in front of him, Corser would be able to pull away, I think. And I think again, whether it's just a slipper clutch, Vermeulen's definitely got problems. He just doesn't look happy on the bike to me. He's not running good lines. He just doesn't look settled at all.
So Chris Vermeulen struggling on the Honda. It's big plus point, of course, sheer speed. Benefited him at Monza. Desperately unfortunate to be disqualified at the end of that, as Oschersleben on bike number 72 slips inside Mauro Sanchini's Z10 Kawasaki. So that's 2 4-cylinder machines together, and the Honda getting the better of the Kawasaki. And Leon Haslam's creeping in on the back wheel of Troy Corser, and he's taking with him Schulten as Lucio Pedicini retires his Pedicini Ducati.
I think Corser definitely needs to get past Vermeulen, but on a bike that's down on power, it's going to be difficult for him.
No matter how good a line he can hold, and he can hold some belters around here.
Yeah, look how much tighter it is. Look how much mid-corner speed he's got and how much tighter the line is.
And he's right with him as they come out of the bends, but then he's not got the speed to hang on to him. Haga's got the speed. Look at that, the advantage he's pulled at the front. Frankie Killy's a little bit in no man's land, but he's going to keep working at it. He was bitterly disappointed with that 3rd place in the first race.
Yeah, he was. He said essentially what he said was the tyre was that bad he wasn't able to have a go back at Toseland.
And it looked like Toseland was struggling too. Here he is, there's Toseland in 4th place, flashing out of picture. Chris Vermeulen in 5th.
And they're queuing up now behind Corser and Vermeulen. I think Vermeulen's actually holding that, and somebody's off.
Someone's down. It might have been Killy. Frankie Killy's gone down. Yep. Frankie Killy has gone down, exiting the final turn, and the people's hero will be stuck on 113 points after this race, and that's a bad moment for Frankie. That really is a bad moment for him. I think once again he was pushing hard. He could see that Laconi was coming back to him a bit.
Last corner.
It was last corner going in. Oh, front end down.
Yeah, typical Frankie. It's exactly the same crashes at Parabolica. They don't hurt, but it's no less frustrating. And there's no real point going up to your bike and trying to pick it up, because as we know, they've got a Mercury switch where when it's on its side the engine has to stop, and with the Ducati you are not getting it going by pushing it. It's impossible.
So a disconsolate Frankie Keeley stomps off. The next time we'll see him in action will be at Silverstone at the British round of World Superbikes, the next round to come up at Silverstone. The current leader, we know, is Norrie Haga. How much pressure can the man behind him apply? The split at the moment is at 1.013. Laconi has just snipped back a few tenths of a second. This is going to be a tense one. Haga on the Renegade Ducati, based up in Knutsford, Cheshire. An unlikely spot for Norwich to be based. And Regis Laconi from Saint Dizier, based of course at Bologna and the Fila Ducati factory. Gradually closing the gap now.
It likes to be interesting to see. We heard after race 1 Haga say that he struggled that much with his tyre, but he was able, because of obviously 5 or 6 second lead to second place man, he was able to ease it off and ride, what did he say? Gently.
He said quietly. He was using the throttle quietly. Look at this. Troy Corser suddenly sucked up into the pack.
That had to happen, Jack, because there's nothing he can do. That's not his riding. That's just the fact that the people behind him are going to get passed on speed, and then he's going to get frustrated and held up in the corners. I feel really sorry for Troy. In a pack situation with a slow bike, you're always going to lose out.
Both Neil and Haslam and Steve Martin got the better of him then, and this is the view from Mauro Sanchini's ZX10 Kawasaki. A whole horde of guys ahead of him.
That's what you call a freight train, that, Jack.
That is a freight train. 2 Alpha Technic Hondas.
Brilliant. It's good fun when you're involved. Look at that. That's good racing. That'll make the laps fly by, instead of being out front worrying about what's going to happen to your bike, and if you can keep your lead, that's when the races drag.
Vermeulen, Haslam, Martin, Corser, Schulten, Olschlager, and a despondent Frankie Keeley. It should be out there and isn't, stomping back towards the pits, knowing that he's given himself a whole load to do come Silverstone.
He's still out there, he's just walking back.
He's still out there. On 2 wheels, here comes Leon. The pocket rocket flies underneath Chris Vermeulen. And Leon Haslam on the verge of his 21st birthday, the very brink of his 21st birthday, which he will celebrate tomorrow.
There's nothing wrong with that bike. It actually levelled with the Honda down the back straight. So there's nothing wrong with Haslam's bike. It's quick.
And there's not a lot wrong with his teammates' bike.
There actually isn't anything wrong with that one, is there?
But Haga now is lead is down to less than a second. It's been trimmed down to just over 9/10 of a second by Leggy Laconi, who's coming on to him now. So Norrie Haga and Regis Laconi. This becomes a battle for supremacy. Race 2 at Oschersleben.
We were talking about Kelly's bike and him preferring the old style. Why don't they just bolt the new fairing on to his old bike? They never know any different.
That's a good idea. Disguise it, and then Ducati would help him out again.
They'd never know. There's Martin going under Vermeulen now.
Martin underneath Vermeulen at the end of the straight.
Fairly clean. And no comebacks from there, because it goes straight from a left into a right-hander, so there's just one line through.
Oh, I love watching them hold
that's a good shot. That is a good shot, and a little bit of a little bit of a dark inlaid as they both exit the corner there.
Just a bit of a drift on.
Yeah,
as they
that's
go
a drift. Not a
turn.
slide. That's a drift, Jack. That.
Magic. I love it. The four-wheel and the two-wheel drifts, absolutely sensational. Whether you're in a car or on a bike.
Yeah, that's something you miss. You know, when you get a corner, absolutely perfect, and you kind of know you have, and you come out of it, and it's just been sliding a little bit, drifting a little bit, and but totally under control. That's something that, I miss quite a lot.
I feel like that when I'm transferring from the M56 onto the M53 in my Suzuki Alto.
Do you?
It's great when you get it just right. Yeah.
I'm the same in my Focus Diesel.
One day I'll get it all wrong, James, and you'll never have to put up with me again. Here we have Norrie Haga in the lead. Haslam now up to 4th place. That's a terrific ride by the pocket rocket. Vermeulen's got forced down to 7th, and poor Corsa still stuck behind him with Michael Schulten and Mauro Sanchini, Chris Walker, Gary McCoy. And Frankie Keeley comes back really to apologise and say, well, I knew I had the problem because I had it in the first race, not get any grip from those tyres, but I know I'm old enough to have behaved myself.
That's why people like him, though he doesn't.
Yes, exactly. Steve Martin is right there with Haslam, Oschersleben, Corsa, Vermeulen, Schulten, number 6, Mauro Sanchini, and Stalker's getting in there as well with Gary McCoy. You talked about a freight train, it's getting longer with every lap.
Yeah, this is a freight train, I love that.
Oh, holding those tight lines, it's just great to see that. It's like Brands Hatch watching them from the back going through Stirlings or something like that. Just wonderful to see those tight lines on tight turns.
And Schulten's having a good ride here, he's in good company. Oh, that's mad. Never lifted the throttle there. Perfect.
The veteran Aussie, the 1999 Australian Superbike champion, nailed to it. Riding 99. This is his 101st World Superbike race, incidentally. He ran his 100th World Superbike race in race 1 here at Oschersleben, just as Troy Corser ran his 190th World Superbike race.
That's a lot, isn't it? 190 races.
That's right, and he's had
Superbike.
29 pole positions, 23 victories, 79 podiums. Incidentally, the only man who's done more, of course, Frankie Keeley. This was his 227th World Superbike race.
No, he's not counting.
9 poles, 57 podiums and 17 race wins. Walker is in 10th place. This is the battle at the front. Regis Laconi, Fila Ducati.
I remember Keeley's first riding a Superbike when he came from Grand Prix. Done it in Park. Ran in the back of me actually and fell off. Then blamed me for it.
Oh, did he?
Yes.
So you've always loved him?
I didn't blame him for it. Said I took a weird line apparently.
All right, okay. He presumably already knew Donington Park. Were the Grand Prix going to Donington then?
Yeah, oh yeah, Grand Prix been at Donington since, hang on, 86 was the last one they did at Silverstone, and they moved to Donington in 87.
This is Regis Laconi, and he's grinding down Noriyuki Haga. How much has Haga got left? This is really inch by inch stuff. Oh, look, we're looking at Martin getting underneath Leon Haslam. Oh, and Haslam refusing to give way, exactly as he did in race 1, but he's had to.
Yeah, that's trust. I mean, when you're on the outside of somebody, if anything happened, you're both going off, I'll tell you.
But Leon stayed right there, stayed on it. 12 laps out of 28. We're not yet at half distance in this thrilling second race at Oschersleben, round 5 of World Superbikes. And incidentally, the temperature has climbed. You can tell possibly by the beautiful sky above. The temperature has climbed to 24 degrees. The track temperature, James, has soared to 44.
Yeah, the track temperature is more reliant on sunlight. Even if it's even on quite a cold day, when the air is quite cold, if the sun's strong, the track will warm up in quite a big way. So the track, it's obviously this, you know, because the sun's come out and there's more direct sunlight, the track temperature is a lot warmer, which will affect the tyres. Sometimes it helps the tyres, but I would suspect this will make the tyres go off even quicker.
Noriyuki Haga still there at the front, but look at this view from the Fila Ducati of Laconi as he's forcing the pace. Last 5 laps, look at that. Haga 29.0, 28.9, 29.0, 29.0. He's super consistent. 28.9.
Yeah, that's really
consistent.
Yeah, he's consistent. Yeah.
Wow. Nori Haga. Laconi 28.6. Look at that. Laconi's almost entirely in the 28, so he's been making that ground bit by bit.
Again, really super consistent.
Haga, first race winner.
And these two have obliterated the rest of the field.
Completely knocked them for 6, haven't they?
There's Toseland.
Of course, they're getting a bit marooned now, and
yes.
notice the ZX10 Kawasaki's. That Sanchini's beginning to come on him as well.
No, he isn't. He was actually he's actually not catching him. He's in exactly the same group as Corsa earlier. Corsa's found his own little bit of space and should be able to maintain that gap now because he's got a clear track in front of him, and he's not been held up in the corners.
He's driving consistent low 130s and just about 130.0.
Yes, he's second off the go, isn't he?
Vermeulen, after having those awful problems in race 1, is struggling again in race 2.
Yeah, he is. That's Argus team.
That was Mark Griffiths keeping an eye on things. Do you know something? It pretty much amazes me, but perhaps it's a sign of the sort of inherent inconsistency of the man before now. But Norrie Haga's only ever double race win was on the R7. I beg your pardon, predated the R7 on the YZF 750 at Donington Park in 1998.
His first time at Donington, wasn't it?
His first time at Donington, the day he became a hero to all you British fans back home, was the only time that Norrie Haga's had a double race win. This is the nearest he's come since.
Yeah, he hasn't fulfilled his promise really. He had a real good. I think he finished third, I think, as well in a GP, a 500 GP in his home round at Suzuka.
He did as a wild card.
And he just hasn't fulfilled the promise. I mean, he's obviously very, very good, and he's having some good runs this year. Oh, that's
Oscherslager's gone down.
Oscherslager, yeah.
So down goes one of the. This time it's the Alpha Technic, the other Alpha Technic Honda, because it was Michael Schulten first time out. So that man's doing his sums to try and persuade Haga.
How much it's cost. He'd be ordering the spares. Send valves. Valves and pistons. Whatever he's doing, it's working.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah,
is that how it feels going through?
Yeah, it is. It's quite awkward actually. It's quite bumpy. You have to use the curbs a little bit, and coming out, the problem is you're just tempted to
use the curbs a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know.
But you're tempted to whack it open as you come out.
Yeah, because you're going onto a straight, you just feel if you're losing time on somebody, you think, I'll just open the throttle a bit earlier, and it is a dead easy place. I actually witnessed Zaus high side in a 748 Ducati there.
Yeah.
In my first full year of Supersport, and however big he is off the bike, and I think he's about 6'2" or something. He got a whole lot bigger when when he decided to throw himself 20 feet in the air.
Was that right in front of you?
Smack in front of me. I saw it all. They were fantastic. But the guy Zaus just bounces, gets up, runs back. Oh! That's Corsa.
And Troy Corsa has gone down on the Foggy Patronus.
I think he's all right. Maybe just a bit winded. He's obviously at the barriers quite high because his bike's right there with him.
So Troy Corsa goes down on the FP1, the man who set his 29th pole position. Far and away the most pole positions that have ever been set in World Superbikes, and the 1996 World's Champion.
He's all right. He's all right.
The tyre wall.
Yeah, he just winded, I think. Just winded.
Winded and annoyed with himself, I should imagine. He'd moved up to 7th place in the championship with 79 points. He's not going to be improving on that. And
it's so difficult for him when you're having to try as hard as he is and keep your corner speed up and open the throttle early and run through the corners quick because you're losing it somewhere else. It is so difficult and so easy to crash. And even for him, a man who he's not known for his crashing, even he's having to push that hard. He's getting off it a little bit.
Meanwhile, at the front, a man who's done a fair bit of crashing when you wouldn't have thought he'd had to push that hard. But obviously, Regis Laconi has had to, and that gap is consistent. This is a tantalising duel between two masters of their craft, really, James, because Norrie's just holding that position, and he can't afford any sort of mistake right now.
He can't because Laconi is so consistent. He's putting lap after lap, almost exactly the same times, which is difficult. It is really difficult. Things change, the tyres wear, the track changes. They're not into the back markers yet, but once they get into back markers, you've got people to pass, and he's got to be consistent. But likewise, so has Haga, because one little slip and Laconi's going to be on top of him.
And they're running 129.2s, 129.3s at this point, and absolutely evenly balanced.
Yeah, they are evenly. They probably have the same tyre on, obviously the same compound of tyres, what I mean. So we should see them going off together, and it's the one who's going to be smoothest. It'll get the best from that tyre. I have to say, for me, it is Haga who does look the smoothest of the two, and I'd never thought I'd hear myself saying that.
And incidentally, there's James Toseland in third place, and he's coming under pressure now from Martin
and Aslam.
I admire Martin because he decided that he was going to make that 999 work whatever happened in 2004. He got on the bike and he said he just came to terms with it early on during testing, and he was just decided, this is the bike, I've got to ride it. He won the World Championship.
It's the same in Britain, and this seems to be a bike, the 999 seems to be a bike you can either get on with and make it work, or you can't. And for some people, and Toseland being one of them, it just doesn't look happy on the bike, and other people have clicked with it straight away, as Laconi has, and it must be a really finicky bike to set up.
Miguel Pryor, one of the men who went back to the 998, rides his 998 off onto the grass. He's out. There we are. It meant that much to him, James.
I'm not happy. that 20th place or whatever it was dicing for.
Now, James doesn't want to lose this place, because if he loses this place, he loses his lead in the championship.
Yeah.
Or at least they become dead level in the championship in
And
the
that's if
positions they are.
Laconi doesn't win the race.
If Laconi doesn't win the race.
Yeah.
So this championship is just becoming fascinatingly balanced.
It is, and I think Martin's going to catch Toseland here.
Well, it's been interesting, of course, that Peter Goddard's around the place, your former Suzuki World Superbike teammate in 1998, and you said that if he was contracted for 3 races to try and pull around Steve Martin's season, he was liable to have the opposite effect. But right now, Martin's looking galvanised.
He is. A problem with Peter Goddard is he's a smashing bloke, very, very, very intelligent. And my own feeling is when I raced with him in the Suzuki squad, the factory Suzuki squad back in 97 and 98, I raced for them. He was my teammate in 98. He overthinks things and he's too technical. He'll still be sitting in his leathers at the computer screen, you know, trying to interpret the data from the telemetry. Long into the night when I've had my tea and gone to bed. Martin's off!
Martin's off! Oh, there we were, thinking that he was coming to turn. Oh, dear me.
That is a bent bike.
That's a destroyed
bike.
And that was the corner you said, James, was that uphill rise as you come out of it, you're so tempted to get the power on early, and it caught him out.
Yeah, that's it. You just have to open the throttle. He nearly saved this. He so
close.
Nearly saved it.
Oh, that was a heavy landing as well.
And the gyroscopic stability built up in the bike and in the wheels actually just wants to keep the bike straight up and going. And when this thing hits the wall, that's still going probably 70 miles an hour, smack into the wall. That's a big bill.
Wow, so the DF Extreme Sterile Garda Ducati will have a big bill at the end of this weekend with 10 laps to go. That was a shame for Steve Martin, because he really was putting the pressure on big time as we watch Gary McCoy, Mauro Sanchini and Gianluca Nanelli tearing into the first turn. We return to James Toseland, who, although he's 17.4 seconds behind the leader, is still in a position to hang on to his championship advantage as long as his teammate Regis Zacconi can't take the race win.
And it didn't look, the last time we saw him, it didn't look like he could. Actually, to me, Hager looked like he just pulled out a bit more of a lead, and he got it back to maybe half a second again.
Yeah, 29.1 against 129.3. So it's a game of tenths of a second, but look how close he is again.
It's concertinaing up and down, this one.
It is. It's absolutely on a knife edge, this duel between two vastly experienced, very, very likeable and very talented racers. And there's the 1999 steaming Sterile Garda
Well, I tell you what,
it survived that
impact. If it's on its wheels, it's not that bad. You saw the steam and smoke coming out of it, which would tend to suggest it's smashed at least a radiator or an oil cooler off the thing. But you can do that from a side blow. But it didn't half look like it went in hard.
It looked like a huge impact, but they were able to roll the wheels around and push it off.
That's true.
The race order now is Hager, Laconi, Toseland, Leon Haslam fourth, Mauro Sanchini heading for an absolute best
Personal
ever.
best, I think.
Well, and also Kawasaki Z10 best. He's now in fifth place.
ZX10.
Sorry, ZX10.
What we're seeing here, this is Laconi.
Oh, Laconi lighting up the rear end, desperately trying. He's working hard.
He is.
Keeping it lit. Lighting it up and keeping it lit. Sanchini fifth, sixth now, Gary McCoy, seventh for Gianluca Nanelli, eighth for Chris Walker, ninth for Chris Vermeulen, just by virtue of being on their wheels, really.
This could be Sanchini's bike we're looking from now.
It is, because that's Nanelli's just ahead of them.
Yeah, it is.
And Chris Walker just not quite able to get onto terms with this group.
What we're looking at here,
and that was Nanelli getting past the Kawasaki.
Yep.
Nanelli, 15th in the World Supersports last year, a newcomer to World Superbike. He's beginning to impress a bit.
Yeah, he is, and it's certainly going to take some time. There's a little bit of a learning curve. Probably got another 25, 30 brake horse, maybe 40 brake horse than the Supersport bike he raced last year. Slick tyres, more adjustable on the suspension side of things. It's going to take some time, and he's doing well. Up there with McCoy now. McCoy
in fifth place, but it looks a far from safe fifth place at the moment. And up at the front, of course, Nori Hager's lead has never looked secure, is the right word, but well, at the moment he's still up there. McCoy in fifth, sixth Nanelli, seventh Sanchini, eighth Walker, ninth Vermeulen. 10th place for Ivan Clementi, so top 10 for both the ZX10 Kawasaki's right now. If Stoker could get near these guys, it must be desperate, straining to get on terms with them. Then,
yeah,
you know.
But the bad thing is, I think it's going to be easier if he can do it to get on terms with these three than it would be to ever get past and in amongst them, because he's obviously struggling from that. He'd have to do it in a corner because that's the only place he's quicker, and in a corner he's going to have them right in front of him, and they're going to slow him up. So
at the front, Hager on a 129.3. Laconi on a 129.28. It's that tightly matched at the front as we watch Gary McCoy.
I want to see what's happening in the front again, because I think Laconi, looking at them times, are going to be right on the back of Hager now. But no.
Going through the Bill Stein chicane, but no. We've got the little red-haired Ossie as we go back to where it matters now. And this is the battle coming past us on the main straight. Norrie Hager, 7 laps to go, 21 complete. We're at three-quarter race distance. Renegade Ducati. Norrie Hager looking for his first double race win in 6 years. 6 long years. Can he do it? He's still in the lead.
He certainly looks good, and he's not buckling under pressure. The lines look absolutely perfect, and he looks a smoother out of the two, which would possibly suggest his tyres would last a little bit longer.
And the bark, the rock-hard bark
of
those 999s.
That is raspy, isn't it?
Round the triple into the right-hander, turn 4, 60 mile an hour second gear, and then light it up to 110 before you hit the Bill Steins and go through the ripples and across the curbs.
Yeah, right across the curves there, you got to use every curb.
And number 23, Yuri Merkivka, is ahead of them.
About to get the business, I think.
He's about to get the business. The 30-year-old from Brno.
About to get a riding lesson, he's letting him through, I think.
Incidentally, yeah, that he'd completed, surprisingly, the...
Oh, that's Hager touring.
Oh, no!
Yep.
Hager's in trouble.
He's popped.
Norrie Hager's in trouble.
And that's not good for Torsland.
And that means that Regis Laconi goes to the front. David Tardozzi kind enough to show some sort of dismay on behalf of the Renegade Ducati team. Something's up. And this man, Regis Laconi, is suddenly alone and can't quite believe it. He's got the race to himself. Lap 22 out of 28. Regis Laconi on the Fila Ducati leads clearly.
Yep, it's definitely blown. I was telling Rev, don't know.
Oh,
There's no smoke or oil coming out of it, but definitely he knew something was wrong immediately. You see him trying to rev it. Whether it's I don't know what to suggest there, Jack. It's terminal anyway, I think we can assume.
We can safely say it's terminal. And that means that that will put James Toulton up to second place, Leon Haslam into a possible first ever podium place.
That's Laconi, even with like a 10-second lead, he's waving at the back markers for him to get out.
Get out of your way. Poor Merkivka, who had completed 100 World Superbike outings at Monza, and he's never got any quicker over all those years, and now he's in his 102nd and getting lapped. And Leon Haslam goes third. McCoy goes fourth in that battle with Nanelli and Zanchini. Walker goes seventh, Vermeulen eighth. This is turning into a bizarre war of attrition round this track here.
It is, isn't it?
And this is Nanelli trying to get on terms with the little red-haired Australian former 500cc Grand Prix winner who's never felt and looked comfortable all weekend round this track on the Nortel Networks Xerox Ducati.
Yeah, it's not the easiest track to learn, to be honest. I didn't find it easy the first time I went, but luckily it was everybody else's first time as well.
That was in Y2K, wasn't it, when we first came? Yeah.
Yep.
And Mauro Zanchini trying to keep on terms with them, but the two Ducatis are beginning to thump away from him. He just can't quite keep that ZX-10 there. Across the line. 23 laps complete for those two. Regis Laconi has instantly dropped his lap times by a couple of tenths of a second because he's simply got nothing to worry about all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's got
I can't believe that. Norrie Hager, if he'd got, okay, I'm all life's full of ifs, but if he'd got a race win there, that would have taken him to 119 points, past Killian to third place and right in the reckoning.
Yeah, well, that's been his season, hasn't it? He's been running strong most races when he's kept going. He's had blow-ups.
So 3 DNFs out of 4 then from for Norrie Hager. His teammate Haslam still there in third as we watch the battle, the sideways battle between McCoy and Gianluca Nanelli. Meklau Merkiefka's even up to 13th place. This really has, this race has been amazing how many people have gone out of it, and people who actually went out of their own accord, like Frankie Killy and Troy Corserow, feel that they've not done themselves justice. Killy would have been on for a second
Yeah,
place.
I'm going to say that would have been second for Killy.
So you've got to stay on two wheels and finish the race to get the points, haven't you?
Right.
And I tell you what, despite the struggle he's been having all weekend, Gary McCoy, who is already on 94 points in this championship, joint fourth with Hager in the championship chase, he's going to be still in and about.
Yeah,
if he can hang on to this fourth place, that's worth 13 points to him. Going to take him to 107.
He's just plugging away, isn't he?
Plugging away, and he keeps on finishing. He may struggle, but he doesn't fall off. Laconi with a 22-second lead over his teammate. Leon Haslam is still just 3.5 seconds behind on the eve. It looks like he's going to celebrate his imminent 21st birthday and birthday party, I presume, with his first ever rostrum finish.
Yeah, little Ollie, his girlfriend, had been in paddock getting giddy now. Wondering if he'll get her on the lap of honour car with him.
The Pedicini team getting excited at this, the sight of 30-year-old egg-headed Nanelli there. I mean egg-headed in terms of shaven-headed, not in terms of daft. Although we don't know him that well, actually, he might be. He's getting very, very close, but not yet able to find a way past that man, Gary McCoy. This man, no one's going to find a way past him because he's done what he needed to do, stay on board. And Laconi headed for another potential race win here at Oschersleben. 3 laps to go then for the Fila Ducati, I was going to say team leader, but I oughtn't to say that. Sorry, James. Sorry, James Toseland, I meant. The man who will not actually go back into the lead in the World Championship because only 5 points for him, 25 points for him, 20 points to James Toseland means that Toseland will have done enough to stay in the championship lead. There he is, second. Third, Haslam, number 91.
But whether he's done enough psychologically, I think he's still going to have a big problem with Laconi being quicker than him at every single circuit, and for me that would bother me. You can't rely on luck, and you can't rely on people having the stop-go penalties, and you know, at some point Toseland, and I think he freely admits it, that he's got to get off his arse and do something. It isn't his fault. If you don't get on with a bike, I think he's out there doing a sterling job, and when you've got a bike that isn't working with you and for you, it's one of the hardest jobs in the world, this job.
And that's obviously McCoy's favourite route into the Hasserode is to go in completely backwards like that, James.
Yeah, and I've said slipper clutches stop that, but actually what some of the blokes do is the slipper clutch will be stopping it doing it under engine braking, but they actually use the back brake to control the amount of slip they've got on the back wheel. It actually looks more impressive than what it actually is. It's not. It's just some riders' technique of doing it, and we all know how much Mr. McCoy is happy with the bike sliding around under him.
Well, we like to watch it though. I think it looks
great.
No,
it
but
looks
you know,
good,
I'm a numpty, as you would describe me, so I'm going to enjoy it.
Not the smell of burning rubber, do you?
No, I don't actually. Leon Haslam headed potentially then for his first World Superbike podium finish. The boy from Smalley, 30 minutes outside Derby, whose dad Ron, Rocket Ron, was one of the all-time great British racing motorcyclists, a man who now enjoys shooting, microlighting and model aeroplanes, strangely enough.
Yeah, likes his toys, does Ron. Very, very good with model aeroplanes. Taught me how to fly model aeroplanes.
He was actually a schoolboy motocrosser from the age of 7, national and British champion Leon Haslam, before going scooter racing at the age of 14.
And broke his leg twice when he was motocrossing. And big break, you know, pins and plates and bits of wire sticking out, and it didn't faze him at all. At a time when most lads are, not out there playing football, he's out there damaging himself on motocross. And you could just tell he was going to be hard enough to do the job because he's been brought up with it and he knows what to expect.
And of course, we tend to forget sometimes that this kid, James Toseland, first got onto motorbikes when he was 10, 11 years old. He almost instantly became an East Midlands schoolboy trials champion, which was a trials rider for 2 or 3 years, as well as a rapidly developing and highly talented jazz and rock pianist. And He is now in second place in the race and leading the World Championship if both of these guys survive this final lap intact. And that is Regis Lecody, headed for potentially another race win here at Oschersleben, which will take him back to within 2 points of James Toseland in their battle for supremacy in the World Superbike Championship. Lecody leads it.
I suppose he had bad luck being, and it was no fault of his that his bike didn't stop when he tipped off it.
Right.
You've got to say that it wasn't his fault he got the sort of ride-through penalty. So he's obviously he's got the good luck to balance out with that in this race with Haga going out.
Having said that, Norrie was looking very calmly capable of holding on to that race win.
I believe so,
there.
yeah, I believe he was.
But a 1-2 now looks likely for Fila Ducati, and that's the team keeping an eye on Regis Lecody and James Toseland as they rattle their way through the left-right switch at Bilstein, and then drags himself back out onto the final turn where Steve Martin so unluckily overcooked it when he was just within touching distance almost of James Toseland. And it'll be a huge wait before James comes up.
21 seconds, he could push it in from here and still win.
So Regis Lecody
Last corner.
into the last corner for the 1994 European 250cc Grand Prix champion, 10th in the 500 GPs of 1998. Comes across the line to take the second race win here at Oschersleben in eastern Germany, and the pit crew in the Fila Ducati garage wait for James Toseland to welcome the young Englishman across the line. Toseland will take second place and maintain his advantage in the championship by a slender but crucial 2 points. Number 52 crosses the line. And in third place, the day before his 21st birthday, the pocket rocket Leon Haslam on the surviving Renegade Ducati crosses the line to take his first World Superbike podium. Gary McCoy in fourth place. Sheer persistence pushing him up the championship table. Nanelli fifth, Sanchini a great ride on the ZX10 Kawasaki, and Chris Walker, his electrics held together this time round. He brings the Foggy Patronus home in seventh, and Chris Vermeulen just hangs on 10 Karte Honda ahead of Ivan Clementi, and 10th placed Andy Mecklau on the Hauer Racing team, the Austrian Suzuki GSX-R 1000. That then the second race here at Oschersleben, round 5 of World Superbikes, and that man, the race winner, Regis Lecody. Toseland with that 2-point advantage at the top of the table. Killy still there in third place thanks to the misfortune of Norrie Haga. McCoy moves a clear fourth on 107 points. Haga just 2 points ahead of Chris Vermeulen. Haslam, look at Haslam up to seventh ahead of Troy Corser. Walker in ninth place, 5 points ahead of the luckless Steve Martin. And it's certainly been a day of ups and downs here at Oschersleben, but James Toseland is still there in the lead in the World Championship. Ducati course, the race winners.
Fair bit of man kissing going on there.
It's a fair bit of Italian hugging, Franco-Italian hugging. And a thoughtful Leon Haslam. Looks like he's been there all his life. Well, Ron will be enjoying this.
Yeah, he will. Yeah, the old team, Ron and little Ol, his girlfriend. She looked quite emotional after the finish.
James Toseland there finished second, but the Marseillaise ringing out for race winner Regis Lecody.
You can't help thinking he's got an uphill task now, Toseland.
The smile well and truly back on Regis Laconi's face. Not so much soul for James Toseland, but Toes still leads the championship by 2 points, and the next round is on his home territory in Silverstone. And for Leon Haslam, he too will go to Silverstone knowing that he's finally made it onto a World Superbike rostrum, and the Renegade Ducati will be on home territory.
Haslam's inexperience on podium showing they got a right face full of fizzy vinegar there.
So James Toseland versus, it looks as if this championship could very much be between the most reliable men in it, in the sense of their machinery, and that is Regis Laconi and James Toseland. They go 1-2, they're 1-2 in the championship, just 2 points apart. Leon Haslam, a brilliant third, lands him 16 points. Gary McCoy in fourth place, really just through sheer persistence, as other people fell by the wayside or threw themselves by the wayside. Gianluca Nanelli fifth, Sanchini a brilliant sixth ahead of Walker Vermeulen, and Ivan Clementi on the second ZX10. But so many retirements in that race that Andy Meklau lands in 10th place on a wild card ahead of Pierre Giorgio Bontempi's Zongshen Suzuki.